Ahead of its launch on January 29th in Pokemon TCG Live, we now know all the new cards that should be included in our first set of 2026. As a reminder, Ascended Heroes will be a special set featuring more reissues of cards than you can count on your toes, all while not resetting their legality. So even though Badoo and Munkidori are expected in the set, they still carry an H marker in the bottom left, meaning they will rotate in March 2027 as expected. Mega Dragonite EX graces the Elite Trainer box, while the pack art also features Terra Pikachu EX, Ethan's Ho-Oh EX, Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX, Mega Lucario EX, and in a surprise twist, Mega Charizard Y EX. What's odd about that inclusion is the fact that Megazard Y is a J-Block card, yet the J-Block won't officially start until the end of March. The English versions of a few cards were shown off, confirming that there will be 217 cards before Secret Rares. The press release adds that Ascended Heroes will have more than 290 cards total, including new Mega Evolution Pokemon EX and new Trainers Pokemon. Keeping in mind that the full stats don't tell us how many cards are new and how many are reprints, the set will have 13 Mega Evolution, 6 Terra Pokemon EX, 20 regular Pokemon EX, 33 Illustration Rare Pokemon, 14 Ultra Rare Mega Evolutions Pokemon EX and Trainer cards, 7 Mega Attack Rare Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, and 22 Special Illustration Rare Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, and Supporter cards. Yeah, like I said in the previous couple of videos, Ascended Heroes is going to be massive, and the majority is probably going to be old cards. One piece of good news is that it appears Psyduck and Golduck could be included, meaning you won't have to continue overpaying for the promo. One piece of bad news is that the only two physical Ascended Heroes products on day one will be the 2-pack collection featuring your Trainers Pokemon, Larry's joining the fray for some reason, and a tech sticker collection featuring 3 packs plus either Charmander or Ghastly. If you want the ETB with 9 packs, you'll have to wait until February 20th. Additionally, the ETB will include this copy of N Zekrom. As the attacked text confirms, if you copy Rampaging Thunder with N Zoroark EX, that Zoroark is unable to attack the following turn unless you switch out. Before I preview all the new cards showing off this week, we won't know the full Ascended Heroes set list probably until mid-January. All I can tell you right now is that Japan's Mega Dream EX set, which will almost entirely be rolled into Ascended Heroes, includes 63 new cards. Considering that there's some leftover gym promos from Japan and that Charizard Y is in the set, we could be getting more than 63 new cards in our set. Or less, who knows, the Pokemon Company International can be weird at times. Anyway, let's start with the Megas that I haven't covered yet. The most emo Pokemon ever created, Mega Scrafty, is getting an EX. Unfortunately, it's about as interesting as a goth kid who likes Wednesday. Mega Scrafty EX's ability is basically just Punk Helmet, putting 5 damage counters on your opponent's active if it's damaged by an attack. Sure, you can attach a Punk Helmet and all of a sudden Scrafty hits back for 90 damage, but its attack, Outlaw Leg, only does 160 damage. Between the 90 retaliation and 160 from its attack, you're not even KOing a freaking Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. Plus, Outlaw Leg takes 2 Darkness and a Colorless, meaning you have to run Toxtricity. There is an added benefit to the leg, and I'm not talking about the toes. Just like Scovillain EX, you discard a random card from your opponent's hand and the top card of their deck. Except where Scovillain requires 2 energy and gives up 2 prizes, Mega Scrafty needs 3 energy and gives up 3 prizes. The ability helps Scrafty a bit, since Scovillain's weakness has always been the low damage output. Yet even then, this kinda seems like a worse Scovillain, and no one's playing Scovillain. Maybe we could make a deck with Unfair Stamp and Xerosic and Handy Fan to try to annoy them into submission using Munkidori to hopefully heal and spread damage counters like their cheeks. But if you're reaching for a Stage 1 Dart-type Mega with 330 hit points, you're going for the Pedo over the Emo. And if Mega Sharpedo EX is worth like 4 toes, then I think I have to give Scrafty 2 toes, right? In the running for arguably the worst Mega in existence, Mega Hawlucha EX has just 250 hit points. Luckily, the ability gives you a fighting chance. If Hawlucha is knocked out by damage from an attack, you flip a coin. If it's heads, Hawlucha survives with 10 hit points. This is the exact same ability as Machamp from 151, meaning the person who made Mega Hawlucha probably spent too much time watching videos of people drizzling honey on their feet, the deadline snuck up on them, and they just hit Control-C, Control-V, then called it a day. As for the attack, it's fine. Basically copying Hisui and Avalugg from a few years ago, it does 120 base for 2 fighting and a colorless. But if there's a stadium in play, it does 260 total, then you discard that stadium. Thanks to Premium Power Pro, Hawlucha can cross 300 damage. Except you can't put it in many other decks than Mega Lucario. And Mega Lucario's whole thing is attacking once with your 3-prizer, using some single prizers afterwards, then finishing the game with somebody who can deal 270. So in that comparison, Hawlucha's much, much worse. And despite your initial reaction, the Sturdy ability isn't as helpful as you might think. If Frostlass is in play, Hawlucha dies between turns. If they have Munkidori, they can kill Hawlucha the following turn unless you bigly heal it. And ironically, the baby Hawlucha can flying entry Mega Hawlucha for KO if it has 10 hit points remaining. All this is to say, I can't give Mega Hawlucha more than 1.5 toes out of 5. Because even if you flip heads on Strong Body every single turn, there's still a really good chance they win the game. Moving over to the new trainers, there's only a couple and both have to do with Terras. The first is Light Ball. Attach it to any of the Pikachu EX in Standard, its attacks do 50 more damage to their active EX. Since Terra Pikachu EX is by far the best, this allows it to hit Megas for 350. The good news is that Lightning will survive rotation. The bad news is that it's still losing Miraidon and Iron Hands and Electric Generator at the end of March. The gooder news is that we'll still have Joltik post-rotation. So make whatever Lightning Metal Grass deck you want with Pikachu EX as the backboner and enjoy yourself. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Nightmine increases the attack cost of all Terra Pokemon by 1 colorless. Yeah, in the 2 months between Ascended Heroes and rotation, this will be annoying for Charizard and every other good G-Block Terra, of which there aren't really any. After that, well, it might continue to be annoying. Dragapult and Cerulege will hate it, same with every Ogerpon. Whether Nightmine stays relevant depends on the meta. If Terras are still dominant next year, it'll have a place. If not, it'll be a card people bring to tournaments, causing smug Dragapult players to start crying. Or those smug Dragapult players will come prepared with an Uno reverse card and play Blowtorch or Jamming Tower. Alright, thanks to Pokemon Proxies doing another great job on the proxies, I can talk about all the other new Pokemon coming in Ascended Heroes. I'll be going in chronological order of how they'll appear in the set, which means Grass is up first. The Wurmple lines are interesting, though the coin flip nature of Dustox likely holds them back. While Silcoon's ability helps put another Silcoon or Cascoon into play, which you can then evolve immediately thanks to Force of Vitality, I don't think that necessarily tips the scales. For a single Grass energy, Beautifly does 80 damage times the number of energy in your opponent's hand. That's super underwhelming against everyone not named Gholdengo, especially considering that most people naturally won't have more than 1 or 2 energy. So you have to do something unnatural like putting crunchy peanut butter between your toes. Dustox's ability allows you to flip a coin. If it's heads, you put an energy attached to your opponent's active into their hand. While this energy is there, your opponent needs to have at least 3 energy in hand for Bootyfly to deal 240 damage. This means you have to get lucky on coin flips multiple times each turn, all while hoping their active has enough energy on it for Beautyfly to knock it out. I think you're better off just playing Dustox. For 2 Grass, it does 100 damage and poisons and sleeps. Combine it with Handheld Fan and Xerosic Machinations, now you have an energy control deck. Will it be good? Probably not. But if your coin flip luck is better than mine, it should at least bait concedes on PTCGL because people rage quit early. And you can always chuck in Moltres to put the pressure on while Dustox sits on the bench and looks, well, not pretty, I mean, look at the thing. It's rare that a basic is more noteworthy than the stage 1, but that's exactly what'll happen with Numel and Camerupt. While the previous Camel is great utilizing a Call for Family attack, the new one pairs perfectly with the Mega. If Ascended Heroes Numel gets hit by an attack, their active is now burned. Mega Camerupt DX does 240 damage for a single energy if their active is burned. You'll still need to play either Volcanion EX or Volcarona for guaranteed burn. This just gives you another way to boost Camerupt's damage. The new Camerupt, meanwhile, is just a worse Moltres. Also, I'll be revisiting Mega Camerupt soon, as its mere existence activates Oricorio EX's ability. So make sure you're subscribed because I'm almost at 30,000 subs. Hitting the number is ultimately meaningless, it'll just force my lips to twitch into an almost smile when I see it. I'm not willing to say that this is the first ever playable Heliolisk card in history, but I might be able to make a road deck out of it. Yes, just like TCG Pocket, it's another stupid coin flip card in a format without a coin reflipper. But there's ways to pretend like you can overcome PTCGL's RNG and win. For each energy attached to Heliolisk, you flip a coin. For each heads, it does 70 damage. I know I'm mentioning rotation a lot, but Ascended Heroes is the last set before losing all G-Block cards, and this is going to be one of the most impactful rotations ever. Anyway, in those 2 months, Heliolisk will have access to Reversal Energy and Electric Generator. After that, it's pretty much just Electric and maybe Power Glass, which is less than ideal. Luckily, Heliolisk has an ability. If you played Canary that turn, you can accelerate 2 Lightning Energy from deck to Heliolisk. Canary grabs 4 Lightning Pokemon from deck at the cost of discarding a card from hand. The combo's there. Unfortunately, you basically have to play Canary on multiple turns, and that means you can't use a draw supporter. Basically, they tried with Heliolisk, it just doesn't quite have enough going for it. And if you're wondering about a possible combo with Raging Bolt, Bellibolt EX is probably better next year. What if Carmine was a Pokemon? That's basically what Tapu Koko is. At any point in the game, even if you go first, Tapu Koko can discard your entire hand for a single Lightning and draw you 5 cards. Obviously, attacking ends your turn, but there's a few decks that won't hate this. Lopunny, for example, could benefit from a fast start. And if you want to play a regular Lightning deck, putting energy in the discard pile for Electric isn't a bad idea. Plus, Tapu Koko can deal 130 damage if necessary. Is Coco a good movie? I don't know, I haven't seen it. But what I can say is that Tapu Koko might see play for like a week before everyone decides it's not worth it. While the Pokemon Company is giving an insane buff to end Zoroark with Ascended Heroes, the same can't be said for the other trainers' Pokemon. Team Rocket's Exeggutor can one-shot any Pokemon in the game for a Team Rocket's energy. Except you need to flip 3 coins and all of them have to be heads. If no one's playing the Doom Decree Spiritomb, no one's going to play Exeggutor. We just got Mismagius EX and Phantasmal Flame, stay tuned for a gameplay video showcasing how bad it is, and we're also getting a new baby Mismagius in Ascended Heroes. This guy uses Ass Magic to deal 60 damage to their active, but if that same active is affected by a special condition, you can put 6 damage counters on one of their bench Pokemon. That also kinda sucks. I mean, we already have a Flamigo in Standard that does something similar, except its secondary effect isn't blocked by Battle Cage. Obviously, fulfilling the status condition clause isn't difficult. Just run Brute Bonded until it rotates or Volcanion after the Angry Mushroom leaves. Maybe if we get into a world massively dominated by evolution decks, you could turn this into a de-evolution deck, but that's unlikely. At least the new Misdreavus is pretty cool, able to evolve directly into any Mismagius, making the EX slightly stronger. Though that's like saying I made my feet slightly smoother. They're already slippery to the touch, anything more would be inconsequential. Literally a day after I played the new Rotom EX deck, the Pokemon Company announced that we're getting a Psychic Rotom. And it's the best one of the bunch if you can ignore the 60 hit points. Not only can this guy use Wonders Patch for energy acceleration, hit fighting types for weakness, and also hit dragons for weakness if Lily's Clefairy is in play, but the new Rotom's first attack is literally a freaking precious trolley for Rotom. I talked a bit about this on stream, but I think you go with 4 copies of this guy. You always want to start at turn 1 going second, and the fact that it can hit for a psychic weakness is huge. I don't think anything will make Rotom tools actually meta, but what I can confirm is that this at least turns it into a bigger threat. In terms of trainers who didn't need new cards, I think Hop fits that bill. I mean, he's solved. Lily and Misty and absolutely Arven wanted help. Instead, we get Hop's Trevenant and Phantom, who I will admit don't suck. That's because Trevenant can one-shot a Mega Lucario or a Dragapult if Clefairy's down. If one of your Hop's Pokemon was knocked out by damage from an attack the previous turn, Horror Revenge does 130 damage. Add in Snorlax, Hop's Choice Band, and Postwick, now you're dealing 220 before weakness for free. Plus, the Phantom is a fine attacker turn 1, potentially protecting itself the following turn while dealing up to 100 damage for free. Ultimately, Trevenant is just another pair of used gym shorts in Hop's bag. Between Zacian EX, Cramorant, Snorlax, and now the trees, Hop has a chance to be slightly more menacing in 2026. Especially if Psychic Wheat decks think they're free once Gardevoir rotates. If the internet is to be believed, there's MILFs in my area who want to date me. Also, Spectrier is the second coming of Lost Mine Sableye. They're wrong, of course, and Daddy Pilot's here to tell you why. First off, Battle Cage. Spectrier's attack places 12 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon for 3 energy at the cost of discarding all energy. If they have the cage down, you can only damage their active. Second, you can't spread the counters like their cheeks. All 12 have to go on one target. Third, it only works in a Gardevoir deck. You're discarding all of Spectrier's energy every single turn, meaning you have to re-accelerate it somehow. That being said, Spectrier is probably going to find its way into Gardevoir. Between the Spooky Horse and 2 Munkidori, you can spread 120, 30, and 30 damage each turn. Alongside Screamtail, you can hit so many different bench targets. So yes, despite Gardevoir rotating 2 months after Spectrier's release, the Pokemon Company still found a way to buff it. Clearly they hate us. They should change the name of this Pokemon to Medicham. For a single fighting, it does 150 damage. That alone would keep it from being playable even when you add in the boost Premium Power Pro provides. But then you see that 7th Kick requires you to have 7 cards in hand for the attack to even work, and you're already erasing it from your brain. Colossal's not much better. For a single fighting, it can deal 140 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Except you have to have 10 fighting in your discard pile for it to even work in the first place. Achieving that isn't impossible with Lunatone Solrock, it's just that 140 damage isn't remotely worth it. There's much better fighting types in Standard, and I'd even say there's a better Colossal. The Gatling Tar one can do huge damage if there's a bunch of fire energy on it, yet no one plays it. Just like how no one's going to play the new one. Luckily, Okidogi is here to settle the score. Without my expert guidance, you might completely gloss over this card. Instead, if you're a Mega Lucario player, your ears should be perking up like a dog's when they hear keys jingling and think it's time for a walk, except you're actually going to work and abandoning them home alone for 9 hours. For 2 fighting and a colorless, the new Okidogi does 80 base damage, but that's increased by 60 for each prize card your opponent took the previous turn. All of a sudden, this becomes a 1-of in Mega Lucario, because if they take 3 prizes, Okidogi's dealing 260 the following turn. Sure, you can't surprise them since the only way to power it up is with Aura Jab, but being able to follow up Lucario getting knocked out with an attack that does at least 260 makes it a better option than Harry Mama. Even though we'll have to wait and see if Okidogi truly does improve Mega Lucario, I think it has a decent chance. If you're as big a fan of gooning as I am, I've got some great news. Ascended Heroes will bring us a new Obstagoon. For a Darkness and a Colorless, which is a bit awkward and probably requires Toxtricity or at the very least counter gain, Obstagoon does 70 damage times the number of damage counters on your opponent's active. If there's 4 on them, Starshot does 280 plus the 4 already there, meaning it can knock out a Dragapult. Getting the counters into play won't be that difficult either. Things like Uxie and Tanglu can spread with their attacks, while Risky Ruins puts 2 damage counters on any non-Darkness basic that's put onto the bench. Probably the best option though is Punk Helmet. If they hit into the Darkness Pokemon that's wearing the helmet like a Scrafty that's had too many concussions, the attacker takes 4 damage counters to the face. Monkey Dory is obviously a problem for this deck, same with Jamming Tower. But if you're able to overcome those obstacles, you'll end up with a potential road deck. A potential road deck that's arguably worse than that Brute Bonnet deck I cooked up, mind you. As for Pangoro, the attack is fine. 200 damage if you have a damaged Pancham on the bench is doable. It's just that Toxtricity is required in this scenario. And if you're playing a Dark type who requires 3 energy and an extra claws to do an okay amount of damage, you're picking either Seviper over Pangoro. The latest Snake does 240 if you have a Mega down, while the old one does 180 if their active is poisoned. In my humble expert opinion, both of those are better. Speaking of older cards being better, we have the new Pecharunt. It's honestly quite astonishing how much worse this guy is than the promo one. Ascended Hero Sentient Mochi only does 20 damage. Sure, you get a card if it's knocked out, but let me repeat, 20 damage. Maybe you could combo it with Mega Gengar, except then you'd have to play Mega Gengar. No, the old Pecharunt will remain better. Adding a 4th Kingambit to Standard, the new one coming in January is eerily similar to Charizard EX. For 2 metal, Kingambit does 180 while also punching itself in the face for 50. But for each prize card your opponent's taken, that damage gets boosted by 30. Using my handy dandy cheat sheet, you can see that Kingambit will do anywhere from 180 to 330 throughout the course of a game. The main issue with Kingambit is energy acceleration. Whereas Charizard powers itself up, Kingambit does not. So you have to pair it with either Archaludon or Metang. But Metang isn't guaranteed and won't help you out in the attacking department. Archaludon's a great backup attacker, especially paired with Relicanth, but gives up 2 prizes. Though that might actually be a good thing since giving up 2 prizes makes Kingambit even stronger. However, Archaludon only accelerates 2 energy, so I think Metang is the clear winner. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of synergy between all the old Kingambit and the new one. I guess you could chuck in a single copy of the Strike Down one for games where you hit something early for a pitiful amount of damage, or for matchups where they heal quite a bit. But that's about it. A new Kingambit also means a new Pawniard and Bisharp. I think the Triple Cutter one is still the best, but once that's gone, your best bet is probably the new Pushdown one. As for Bisharp, the new one is the best one. For a single metal, it does 50 damage and draws 2. If things are going bad, this could bail you out of a sticky situation. Plus, if you have Relicanth in play, you can copy Kick Draw with Kingambit, get the damage boost, and still draw those 2 cards. Despite the downsides, Kingambit is a perfectly serviceable single prize attacker, and you already know I'm cooking up lists for it. Just like how this video's dragged on, we finish up with a couple of unplayable dragons. Rayquaza will break your ass for a Lightning and Colorless, only doing 110 damage in the process if it just moved into the active. Moltres is better. Noivern, meanwhile, does 140 damage if it has a tool attached, all for a Psychic and Darkness. I'd rather do 30 less damage with Moltres, even though Moltres only hits EXs harder because it does it for 1 energy and it's a basic. Before I finish myself off, I'd like to correct an issue that popped up in last week's video as a result of me not knowing how to read. When I talked about Mega Froslass EX, I erroneously mentioned that Frostmoth forces both players to draw a card, forgetting to add that it has to be in the active spot. It's not my fault, okay? The translation was incorrect at first. Regardless, instead of just being able to run a 4-4 line of Froslass, you have to pivot a little bit. Now it'll be a 2-2 Frostmoth with Surfing Beach and Air Balloon to force a draw 2, then likely 2 copies of Chandelure as well. This hurts Froslass slightly and takes it from 4 toes to 3.5 toes, but the card still seems good. In terms of special sets, Ascended Heroes is one of the better ones, though that's more due to previous sets kinda sucking. The Megas are ultimately disappointing, with Froslass leading the way and Hawlucha coming in the rear. Dragonite still seems like a worse main Nectrit, though it doesn't have a weakness and has access to Dragonair. And Zekrom takes N Zoroark to new heights, while Stunfisk could be everything Mega Lopunny needs. Spectrier probably helps Gardevoir do more Gardevoir things, and the new Rotom might improve the tools deck. Between this video and the ones in the playlist in the description, you should have a full idea of what Ascended Heroes will bring to the table when it launches on January 29th in TCG Live. I'll have plenty more coverage in the coming weeks about this set, so make sure you don't lose a battle in Yu-Gi-Oh! And get sent to the Shadow Realm. Because I desperately need your ad revenue.